Call the Policies and Priorities Committee meeting to order for Monday, September 8th. Before I do the approve of the agenda, I'd like to put a motion on the floor that we add Northern Health discussion. If I can get a seconder. Councillor Bertrand, discussion. Reason I'm asking to put that on there, I have a motion made up that I'd like to read out in front of council and debate it and see if we can get support to give staff some direction. Okay, any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor to add? Carried. Thank you. We'll add that under 6.3. I'll take approval of the amended agenda. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. That all items in the September 8th Policies and Priorities Committee meeting agenda be approved as amended.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes for August 11th, 2025 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That the August 11th, 2025 Policies and Priorities Committee meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Any errors or omissions from council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Business arising from the minutes, anything from council? Staff?
No, only that council's wishes were submitted to the liquor and cannabis branch.
Thank you. Okay, on to reports. Healthcare Task Force Committee recommendation, terms of reference review. Report dated September 8, 2025, from the Executive Assistant to Mayor, Council, and CEO regarding Healthcare Task Force Committee recommendations, terms of reference review. Recommendation, please, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka, that council receives this report for discussion.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I originally brought this, I wanted to bring this up for discussion because I ran into the new sergeant in town, and he informed me. Okay, let me back up. He was speaking with. He wants to join the health task force. Let's just say that. There's a little bit of, he was talking to other people too, and I was told by somebody else. But anyways, he wants to get involved with the health task force. He believes that mental health can strongly affect the amount of strain and call-outs on RCMP personnel. So he really wants to get involved in that and advocate for that. We do have a mental health practitioner in Tumbler Ridge, but I still think it's a great idea to have his input if he's passionate about healthcare, like to encourage those types of things. But upon review of the health task force, we don't actually have the mechanism to allow him to join. So part of this is that I think it's not a good idea for us to allow Sergeant Hughes to join us and potential sergeants in the future. And just reading the terms of reference looks like it could use a bit of an update. So part of that we can take a look at today. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gillick.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with this. When I was the representative, we tried a couple times to get this in front of council, so I think it's great that it's coming forward now. Thank
you. Discussions, thoughts. So, I see how we have it set up in regards to the following members. District Tumbler Ridge, Mayor and the Chair, 2 councillors, 1 representative from Northern Health, 1 representative from BCM, it's representative from the public, and then now we're looking at the RCMP. As I go through some of the minutes and stuff like that, and from quite a few of the last previous meetings that's been going on, it seems we have a lot of people that aren't part of the member setup for the task force. So if there's a reason or it's good to have certain people there, then we should be adding those individuals as well. When we talk about the primary care network coordinator, the executive director for the South Peace, and then obviously we have a couple of people that are representing Northern Health. I see Dr. Iffy, obviously when he can make it, but we have Becky Burton on there. So I think if we're looking at adding some of the other individuals, then we should make sure that we have a spot set up in that criteria for it, just so that we're following our own terms of reference. Because right now, to me, we're not following the terms of reference on the way it has been established for seats on the board. Councillor Knoxena?
Thank you. I see even in the terms of reference, it says a maximum of 7 people. We've often had a lot more, not a lot more than that, but more than that. And I think that we should have room at the table for the people who are attending, like the Division of Family Practice and the PCN, like you mentioned. So it'd be great to adjust that a little bit to allow those people. And I really do appreciate the input the doctors bring to the table when they're able to come. I recognize it's not a guarantee every time based on their schedule and their patient load, but really allowing them to come and voice opinions or concerns or bring up things like the health fair or initiatives they have going on is really great. So it would be great to have those listed in our committee membership.
Thank you. Councillor Jilek?
Yeah, and I don't know what it's looking like now. I know that we had trouble having BCEHS attend and often had more than one doctor that was there. So if we only had one spot for one doctor, so I don't, yeah, like I think it, I wonder if we can be creative when we talk about a minimum or a maximum number, because I think the minimum, because some days you might get 2 or 3 doctors in there. Because I had 3 doctors in there at one of the meetings that I had, and so I think we would never want to turn them away if, you know, if they feel like they should be there. Dr. Helm, in essence, I imagine he's coming to South Peace Division of Family Practice, and then Charlie's still there as South Peace Division of Family Practice, and so I just wonder if instead of having individual things that we have space for other people to come in. I think it's always great to dialogue with whoever is able to do that, and if we can find the terms of reference for the folks that are there in the meeting, then what are we going to do? Say, sorry, you can't be here? So that's
The way it's set up today is, yes, we should be saying that.
And I know when I ran it, we didn't, and we tried to get the terms of reference back here to council 2 times, in fact, had reports done. So this is ongoing, so I think now that it's here, let's try and get it done. And I don't, yeah, I guess for me, I think it would be tough to say sorry to a new doctor who came into town because we already had one doctor in the room.
Councillor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I prefer a broader approach to who we're inviting in when it comes to healthcare professionals or people involved in the healthcare realm. And that's because there's so much going on out there. It's hard to make sure that you're not crossing into another lane or somebody else isn't already doing that. I know with the South Peace Health Services Society, I deal a lot with the Primary Care Network and South Peace Division. The lines are blurred a little bit for me, but they're doing so much that you want to make sure that you're not duplicating efforts, because that's, you know, just a lot of wasted effort on behalf of everyone. So it's even if there's not much going on, it's good to know, well, you know, if they are doing something, we don't have to duplicate that effort. Or if there's an issue, perhaps they can step in and help out. So I like those broad sort of opportunities to allow for that collaboration. And sometimes they can't make it, but yeah, I prefer opportunity to allow for a little more in this instance.
Councillor Bertrand?
Thank you, Mayor. Completely agree. RCMP need to be on there. Now with our new changes to our medical center, our CMP resources are definitely going to be stretched. So having them at the table to provide their input would be very valuable. Just looking at the terms of reference, I completely agree. I think we should get this done now and not do it 6 times. But I'm also, well, I'm looking at the goals of the committee, and I'd like to ask the committee members if those goals are still relevant, because they are probably 7 years old. And I would be in favor of getting rid of a maximum amount of members on the membership committee there. So as far as the goals of the committees, you know, I think back to when this committee was first created. It was really a matter of collaborating with our health center to try and make it better in some way. So you had mentioned, Councillor Norbury, about mental health services in town. So there is one of the goals on here, lack of mental health and counseling services for children. I'm just curious if these goals need to be adjusted as well.
Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Yeah, Councillor Bertrand raises good points. I was looking at these as well. Retention of, going from the top, retention of healthcare professionals is still huge. What's going on? Reduction of public health and home care support isn't something that we've talked about since I've been on the task force. Lack of mental health and counseling services for children. One of the challenges I believe there is that a lot of that is taken up by a different ministry and done with the schools. So I'm not sure how much we can have an effect there. But again, it's not something we've talked about. Just general mental health. Challenging facing TR cares we haven't talked about. Structural issues with the healthcare building we are talking about, and then the other issues related to health advocacy. You know, we were talking about rotation of healthcare professionals coming through the community, allied healthcare professional support coming through the community, and doctor wait times were some of the, I would say, the top issues that we've been talking about from my perspective. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilor Noxana.
Thank you. I'd agree with what Councillor Norbury said. I do see TR Cares in this list of goals, and they have not attended any of the meetings I've been at for the Health Needs Task Force. I would like to add them to the list, especially based on the meeting we just had Sunday with Northern Health, addressing one of the challenges of getting people back to the community if they leave for emergency services. They think TR Cares can help with. It'd be great to have TR Cares working with us to see what do they need, what capacity do they have, so that they feel supported as we roll through this really challenging time right now.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Maybe some Councilor Bertrand?
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. The first goal of the committee, the retention of healthcare professionals. I'm of the opinion that I believe that needs to be taken out. I think this council over the last 8 years has provided a lot of support to Northern Health to not only recruit but also to try and retain. And I don't believe Northern Health is reciprocating the effort as far as retaining or keeping any of these healthcare professionals, as we can see with the recent events. So I don't believe this council, in my opinion, should be focusing on any kind of retention of healthcare professionals. I believe that's Northern Health's job.
Thank you. I got myself then, Councilor Noxana. I think it is our job now. I think our hands have been forced on in regards to the announcement that happened last Thursday at 12:46. I also think it's important to be part of this task force for that reason. Is there's things that we can do, or that task force can do, and discuss and bring things back into council for a debate and a motion for debate and then a vote. You know, I believe the more and more we hear from medical professionals, or the doctors and stuff, I've attended a few of these meetings, is the stuff that we are doing is working. I think we just need to be out there more, and I think it's really, really important that is one of the goals for the task force, is to really, I mean, to me, we should change it, because we should be changing it to attraction and retention. I think they can, you know, working with the PCN and the other agencies that do come to that meeting, there's other things those agencies are already doing to look at recruiting physicians or nurses or other allied healthcare workers to come in a rotation between here and Chowan. So I think that's really important to leave in, but maybe adding the word of recruitment or attraction to assist with Northern Health. I think it's loud and clear that there's some recruiting issues. I mean, retention issues, obviously, we've heard. So I think it's really important for this task force to work with some of the other agencies that do come to the task force meeting that's set up once a month, to dialogue and see what they're working on compared to what maybe we could be doing. So I think it's important that it is kept there. I got Councillor Noxana, then Councillor Chulik.
Thank you. I'm also of the opinion that this has to stay there. Is it our job? No. Is anybody else going to do it? No. I think that there's things we could be charging back to Northern Health, like market rent for the condo we own that Northern Health employees use. But ultimately, if we aren't doing everything we can for recruitment and retention of healthcare professionals, we're going to lose more healthcare professionals, and it's our residents that are going to lose out in the end. Northern Health doesn't care. They've showed us they don't care. So we have to do everything we can to keep these folks here and to attract them to our community and really sell what an amazing place this is. I would, though, agree that this isn't our job, but I'm going to keep doing what I can to get people here.
Thank you. Councillor Julick and then Councillor Bertrand.
I'm on the same page as Councillor Bertrand. I absolutely think that we as council have a role to play. I do not believe it is solely the job of the Healthcare Task Force. I think that it belongs to everybody here in this room at the time, all 7 of us, because there has to be budgeted amounts to those things. And the Healthcare Task Force doesn't have a budget. I think that it puts the folks in that room in a difficult position because you meet once a month, and then the terms of reference currently show that a motion has to be made, and then the motion has to be passed within that meeting, and then it has to come back to council. So it's a long process. I also don't think that that item can stand the test of time to be in the terms of reference, because prior to me leaving the Healthcare Task Force, there was a full contingent of doctors. So within a year, that has changed. So the need for that item within the terms of reference needs to be there now, but it didn't need to be there 6 months ago or a year ago. So for me, it's not that I don't think that we have a responsibility. I don't believe that responsibility needs to be within the Healthcare Task Force.
Thank you. Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. I absolutely agree that I think council's role is to attract healthcare professionals to our community. And the way we've done that is making our community as livable and as affordable as we possibly can. Beautiful, the scenery. We've marketed this community to the world for the last 7 years, and we've certainly hit the map. When I think about retention, this committee was created 7.5 years ago. We've put a lot of effort into coming up with out-of-the-box ideas. The VIP passes, fantastic. It got through the word of mouth through all the nurses and everybody there. It was very much appreciated and very well received. But if you can think back 7.5 years ago, if you were here, do we have a single doctor here today from 7.5 years ago? Not one. Yeah, I think retention needs to go.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman and Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. I think what's going to be needed is hard to say right now, especially with some things being up in the air and what reactions are and what's going to be needed. I think this list can change in a matter of weeks, months, and ongoing. Arguing this point, with all due respect to everyone, not trying to be inconsiderate, but I think it's moot right now. I don't know what we're going to need, and I don't know what our partners are going to look like in the short term. So what we need will change, and that might be attraction without retention. It might be both. It might be, who knows? So for right now, I don't feel the need to argue point by point of what this is going to look like, because I think that's going to change. So for right now, I think the general broad and the points made earlier, removing size restrictions and such, that's great. I think as a concept, we can go forward with that, and that might help in who's invited in the future to discuss what points. But right now, reading these points, I don't think this is worth the debate time. I think we have more pressing matters for the big elephant in the room of what's happening with our ER and what fight do we need to do on that front. And until that's settled, I don't feel the need to give this task force specific instructions of what direction we need to go. We have a bigger question right now. So I'll stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Some good points. Yeah, I like Councillor Bertrand's comments about have these. Do we know definitively? Do we have concrete evidence that these passes and efforts have they made a difference? If you just look at tenure of doctors, no. We've had a good core group of nurses for many years. We are aware of who they are. I know when we had the discussion about the VIP passes, one of the discussions that we talked about was, continuing to allow, give them, I think exercise brings positive mental health, gives them an opportunity to get involved in the community. I still believe in that. I also like Mayor Kakalka's comments about attraction. I believe having the ability to take out a potential nurse or doctor, what have you, out for dinner with elected officials and other community members, I think that is a huge selling point. I remember being a part of these and just being able to sit down and tell them about, the activities you can do, the churches you can go to, the social connections that made a difference, I think. Unfortunately, in my opinion, it was Northern Health's issues that prevented it. But, I like the idea of adding attraction, retention. We can keep the idea out there, float the idea. Those VIP passes, the top-ups that got us through some tough times that came through the health task force at the time, and that was pretty important, I think. It was able to get us some of the gaps, to fill the gaps. So, yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Councillor Bertrand and Councillor Noxana.
Thank you, Mayor. Completely agree. I think a lot of our incentives and attraction items have worked in multiple different ways. But you're right, the elephant in the room is our ER service. So this committee is certainly still relevant, obviously, because health is certainly a huge priority of our community. But why can't we add, instead of other issues related to health advocacy, how about increasing our services at our health center, including our ER overnight? I mean, these committees are formed with a mandate, and we have to give them that mandate. This is the number one topic and priority on this council currently. Let's add it to the committee so that we have a focus and we have a goal of getting our ER back open.
Thank you. I got Councillor Noxana, myself, and then Councillor Jilek.
Thank you. I wonder if the goal of the committee should be more broad and then have notes underneath or bullet points underneath of what things we need to focus on and maybe review this more often than once every 4 years. Because I'm thinking our goal is for equitable and timely access to healthcare services in Tumbler Ridge. And it should be our goal next year, and it should have been our goal last year, and it should be our goal in 10 years from now and 10 years ago. But those bullet points, we should be adjusting as the situation changes in Tumbler Ridge. So right now, of course, the issue is ER services in town, but also attracting and retaining doctors, which is Northern Health's job, but we've seen how well they've done at that. And things like mental health services, TR cares and the challenges they face. If the building was falling down, we'd want the building on this list. But if we're looking at it every year, we can adjust those bullet points while keeping that main goal of equitable and timely access to healthcare services in Tumbler Ridge as like that broad, this is what we're working for and this is what we have been working for.
Okay, Councillor Jilek.
Yeah, I wonder if so these are 8 years old. I wonder if we ask staff to come back after we talk a bit more about it and everybody has their say with something, like Councillor Noxana said, something pretty broad, and then have it so we look at it every year, whether it's just a review, if it's on our fuel list or whatever. Because I see here to consider all matters referred to it by mayor and council. Well, I've been here 3 years. We've never referred anything to it. So I think that, and I know yourself and I, Mayor, had different idea of what that task force looked like when I was serving on it. Yeah, I don't know if we really have grasped all of the things, and I like the idea of keeping it broad because I think so many topics come up in that room as something shifts within it, whether it was when Miss Borton took over or when there was that other guy that was maybe going to be there and then he ended up not showing up, or it was just a short period, like just so many different things that changed. So to try and narrow the terms of reference, I think makes it difficult for the folks that are on the task force to try and keep it to specifically that. So So I think if we have a conversation today and then we ask staff to kind of come back, because 8 years is a long time, I agree, if we were to go one by one, as Councillor Hoffman suggested, we'll be here a lot longer.
Thank you. Yeah, so my comments, and there was councillors that mentioned earlier, like the sole job of the task force is not to be dealing with the doctor issues or this, that. I don't believe it is. I don't think it's timely as we think it is, because when they have a meeting and they can make a motion at the meeting, it's at the next council meeting it comes forward. So it's actually fairly quick. I think it's really, really important, and I'm fine with keeping it broad and have some bullet points below. I think it's very, very important that this committee or this task force is looking at recruitment and retention. That should be one of the set ticks beside the broadness. Is it's important because they're sitting around there with other agencies that, one, we would have to come in to ask for them to come in for delegations once a month, every 2 months, and expect them to spend that time when they're already spending the time with the task force that can bring those things forward to them. The ones I've attended with the PCNs and now that we have the South Peace family, some of that stuff that they're doing, like heading out right away here overseas to go and do recruiting. Again, we would have to bring them as a delegation to get that information to council when they can have this group at the meeting and they're already doing some of these things. So, removing retention or not adding recruitment, do I think that's part of the health task force? I really believe that. That's why one of the reasons why it was established. Have we retained everybody? When it comes to retention, I believe Northern Health has to assist with that too and make sure that they're doing everything they can do. And to me, this task force was set up to help with Northern Health, to get the ideas going between the two organizations as elected officials and Northern Health as an agency. And how can we assist you to help with attracting and retaining some of your staff? One of them was the passes. Somebody says, like, how do you attract that? Well, the nurses union is the first thing they say at a PRRD meeting. Tumbler Ridge has mentioned right away about what we do for our medical professionals in Tumbler Ridge with those passes. So it is well talked about by the nursing staff that have worked here today and that used to work here in the past. It's also talked about the agency nurses that are used through the Go Health program. So I do think that some of the stuff we are doing is definitely helping with retention at the health center for the Northern Health. But I do think keeping it broad but having bullet points, and some of it should be that because they have the right agencies at this task force meeting. Unless we want to hope that some of these agencies are willing to constantly come in as a delegation so that we can constantly throw out questions and wait for them to come back. We talk about what kind of time length that looks like. I think that opens up for a longer time length compared to what the task force is doing. So I believe that should be something in there. I mean, adding some extra members or taking off the maximum amount of numbers for the thing. I think we got to be careful with that maximum number that we're not, if they have an hour meeting and we start adding 15 people to a meeting, I imagine we're not getting much dialogue done at a task force meeting. So, I mean, I think we just got to be careful there. I mean, I've attended some with Councillor Julik. There's extra people in there, but it was, well-handled meeting and everybody got an opportunity. So I do think, whether we have it broad, and I don't think we just send this back to staff and say, hey, you've heard us talk around at the P&P, can you just come back something with us? No, let's set some stuff here to staff. It's not staff's job to listen to us, have a conversation, then send it back and make notes and then bring it back to us. We got to give some clear direction on what we're looking for in regards to the terms of reference that staff have. They're not doing the job more than once. We've given them kind of what we're looking for broad with some bullet points and then have it come back before council. Just ask staff to capture our words and then bring it back. I don't think that's the right approach. From my side, I don't think that's the right approach. I got Councillor Norbury and then Councillor Julik.
Thank you, Mayor. As someone who sits on the committee and looking towards who might sit on the committee, keeping it broad does give them the flexibility to deal with what comes up. But on the other side of that thing, it's like also under the task force responsibilities. It is absolutely okay for mayor and council to make a resolution. This is your top priority. I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, if Councillor Bertrand made the recommendation for us to investigate how to keep the ER open, I don't think that's a winnable task, but I don't think it's unreasonable to attempt to try, and that would be on the task force agenda regularly, because that would be our priority. And I mean, hey, if we want to be a thorn in the side of Northern Health and bring it up every time, then we might just be wasting our time. But I don't think so. I don't think it's unreasonable. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Julik.
Yeah, and like, I think you make a good point, Mayor Kukalka, that you'd like us to go through. I just, like, so what is the process that you want to start us with? Like, because I think, like, I can tell that we have a bit of a, like, we mostly agree, but we don't completely agree. So how do you want to go about, like, because I'm ready to make the motion,
Motions
but
and
I don't
debates and
know-
votes.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. So are we doing, like, we're looking for somebody to make a motion that it be a certain amount of numbers? Or are you looking for, for example, Councillor Bertrand to say, no, it shouldn't be in there, and then we vote on that? Like, is that what you're looking for?
That's the only way it's going to be able to come out of here or be added into this terms of reference is motions on the floor, debated, and then a vote.
And I guess I wasn't prepared for that when I came to this meeting. I didn't realize that's how we were going about it, as the motions didn't read that way, that we were provided with. So I guess for me, I'd want a little bit more time to come up with them, but if I'm the only one, that's fine. I'm not, like, I'm thinking recess or possibly another time. At the same time, I can vote too. I feel like I'm kind of under the gun.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bertrand?
Thank you, Mayor. Any recommendations that we make or motions that we make at this meeting does go back to a regular meeting for more debate. So there is more time to think about it or see if you're in agreements. But I'll start the motions off by, I'd like to move that we strike the last sentence from committee membership. Just strike it right out of the paragraph, and I'll read it out. The committee will be a maximum of 7 people with the suggested membership profile. And we don't really need the profile anymore, I don't believe, but yeah, striking that maximum out.
Seconder on the motion, Councillor Noxana. Discussion, Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. I'm in favor of this. This gives the committee the flexibility to invite or not invite the people that are relevant to the discussion at that time, which could change and has changed over the years of the committee. So I think that does allow the flexibility to continue on as needed.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Norbury.
Building on Councillor Bertrand's comments, I'll motion that the next section, the mayor's task force will attempt to consist of the following members that are reflective of the attendees in the most recent task force minutes, which include doctors, South Peace Division of Family Practice representatives, primary care network manager, administrator from Northern Health, and others. Thanks.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Bertrand. Discussion, Councillor Bertrand?
Thank you. Just a clarification. So we're not, we're just listing who we want to attend. We're not saying 3 people from this group or 3 people from that group or anything. We're just listing out the organizations that we would like to attend. Is that correct?
Yep. Yep, not the amount. Follow up, Councillor Bertrand? Councillor Noxana?
Thank you. I'm not sure we need to list who we would like to attend, because I think this is very fluid. When I look at this list of who the original people invited to these meetings were, and then I look at our minutes from the last meeting, it's very, very different, and it's going to continue to change. So if we're not going to be able to have this terms of reference brought back to us at a regular basis as the needs of the community change, or the healthcare needs of the community change, I think that we should not include a list. It should just be monitored by mayor and council as we go through what needs to happen in the community or what we need to be advocating for.
Thank you. Councillor Gillick.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Councillor Noxana. The only thing that I would say is that right here now it says the mayor's task force will attempt. So I like that the word attempt is there, to consist of the following members, to consist of the following organization would be something I would rather look at. Northern Health representative, and I think we need to write down 2 counselors, if that's the way it's gonna read. Only because we're here for another year and then a new council will be in here, and so to leave some succession planning there. Like, I feel like we could have the specific organizations that we would attempt to consist of, but then at the end have another members, the task force leaders, like whether it be mayor or councillors, deem necessary, or something to that effect, like just something that'll read, that'll keep it broad for people to be able to come to the meeting, that we aren't going against the terms of reference. If something, for example, happened in that meeting that had to be voted on, that's not gonna come back and kick people in the butt because, oh, well, so-and-so was there from such and such and they aren't in our terms of reference.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my comments just before I go to Councilor Bertrand is I do think we have to have some of them listed. Some of the agencies, one, for staff to be able to reach out to make sure they know who they're inviting out, pretty much every regular task force, whether they attend or not. If we don't have a list there, I think it makes it very tough. So we're going to expect 2 councils to come up with a list of who they want to attend this month's meeting. I think we got to have some of the agencies, whether that's like Councillor Julik, I agree with you when you talk about Northern Health, the RCMP, BCHS. I mean, as we go on, I plan on making a comment that we send a letter to BCHS, regional manager, to see if they want to attend. I think it's really important that we have some of those specific agencies, not a number of how many from Northern Health can attend or how many from PCN can attend, but I think we have to have some of those agencies so we do have something to go with for these meetings, not just going at the hawk. Oh, well, I'm going to invite, right now the 2 liaisons that I've appointed share on who chairs it. Well, one decides that this month, I'm inviting this group, and this. I think it needs to be somewhat, we say broad, but I think we need to have a list of some of the agencies that we expect to be at a health task force meeting. That would be your Northern Health, BCHS if they would like to attend, the RCMP, the PCN. I think we need that. I think we really need that stipulated, in my opinion. I wouldn't be just invite whoever you want, because I don't think that's up to come back every month from the 2 appointed council representatives to come back and talk about it just before your meeting on who council thinks should attend your next meeting. It should be something already set up, in my opinion. Councilor Bertrand and then Councilor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of listing out major organizations that we want there. I think if we don't, we're running the risk of them not attending. If they are listed in the terms of reference, they have a responsibility to attend. But I think by keeping it broader in a sense where maybe at the end of the membership you could maybe, or we could add in plus invited organizations for, or invited guests or something, but the invited guests wouldn't be allowed to vote on any motions. So the organizations within that are listed in the terms of reference are the only ones that can vote, but then we have the flexibility to invite other doctors if we need, or foot care specialist, or whatever it might be, but they just wouldn't have voting rights.
Ms. Scott.
I just wanted to provide a little bit of clarification for council as well, and why there's a need for being able to set who the regular attendees or voting members would be. And that is for when you have meetings to determine whether you have a quorum. You need to have quorum before you can make resolutions, pass resolutions. So you need to have a set amount of regular members so you can have a quorum. But additionally, the terms of reference does say right now that the task force may create subcommittees and invite and consult with other parties as needed. So it's already in there.
Thank you. I was going to say that, but thank you for that. Councilor Norbury.
Thanks, Mayor. I was going to make an amendment to what Councillor Bertrand was talking about. I feel like he took my thunder a little bit, but well, thank you, Ms. Scott, for clarifying and setting us straight that we're just talking about something that's already there. So we're good to go.
Thank you. Councilor Julik.
A couple of things. There isn't anything listed in the terms of reference as quorum. Just as we're speaking about that, there's nothing in here that talks about quorum, so that would be something that would have to be added. My concern about being specific and having non-voting members, or maybe then we have voting or non-voting members. I know when the PCN first came to be, as well as the South Peace Division of Family Practice, they weren't on here. Votes were made for things to come. So I think that if we get too specific, or, as Councillor Bertrand had talked about, them having a responsibility to be there, I don't know that we can hold somebody else's organizational people to be at a meeting. Like, we can ask BCEHS to come, but if they can't make it, then, you know what I mean, there's not a responsibility there. So I think that we need to be mindful as we make these decisions. And maybe it's not a voting thing, because like, I know it talks in here about voting, because I remember talking to Ms. Curry about it while we were in the meetings, or after the meetings or whatever, because she was very much more familiar with the terms of reference than I was. And so I think that those are some of the pieces that we better be careful with, not be careful with, but be mindful of when we're getting that to be rewritten. Because even as I'm talking about this, I'm seeing that the committee is called Tumbler Ridge Health Needs Committee, and then later on it's called the Mayor's Task Force on Tumbler Ridge Health Needs. So we need some consistency in the terms of reference as a whole as well. And then, like I say, I'm concerned about how do we take that on when we actually don't have anything for quorum. And I'm actually looking here, and I don't know if we have anything on voting on these specific terms of reference, which are the most recent.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Scott?
Again, just to clarify that the terms of reference does say a quorum of a majority of members must be present in any meeting where recommendations are approved for a presentation to council. So it does talk about quorum.
Thank you. I was wondering if that's what you were going to say. I was just had it lined out. Yeah, and I think it's important. I mean, don't get me wrong. And it does state in there, and Ms. Scott has mentioned that we can have, they can branch out and have different groups, and that's how the PCN was able to join the task force. You know, it says the Tumbler Ridge Health Needs Committee. That's because it used to say the Mayor's Health Task Force, and it was changed. We changed the naming of it because of how it stated. That's why, and it probably stayed when you talk about the other comments. Well, it still states down here, because it wasn't changed. We just changed the header of the meeting, not the whole thing. And I think it was just important to know that, you know, I'll be honest, I'm the mayor, I don't always go to the meeting. You're well aware of that. The two new appointed delegates to the committee know that I'm not at every meeting. So to call it the Mayor's Health Task Force when I have two councillors attend, it doesn't suit me. I think that's why the headline of the name was changed. I don't think it needs to be removed throughout the whole thing. I do think it's important that we, again, it's not that we can demand any agency to attend the Health Task Force Needs Committee, but it sure seems like we have a pretty good turnout every time there's a meeting. So I think it's very important that we have those agencies on there so that they know they're part of that. And it doesn't mean the committee can't, you know, Councillor Bertrand mentioned it, you know, it doesn't mean you can't invite that experience that the committee would need, because the previous meeting they talked about something that they're looking for. Foot care was one of the examples Councillor Bertrand used. So you could bring somebody in to discuss that with the committee, as maybe not everybody has that experience on it. That's the idea of this. And I think it's important that we do have those agencies there that are named so we know who the quorum is for voting. Councillor Julik.
Okay, so from what I understand, Councillor Norbury's motion on the floor is to include the folks that are listed in our the Health Needs Task Force draft minutes, which are the ones that are there.
We can get clarity from Councillor Bertrand or from Councillor Norbury.
Okay, and then my question, and then how do we add in, because we don't have representatives from the public, but I agree that in the way to go about it is the people who come after are not voting members. And how do we, and that would be where I would want staff to figure out how to put that in there. That's my point.
Yeah, and if we add these to the members, so we've always tried to reach out to have a resident on there, which would be a member of the committee. I think now with the announcements, we probably have a list of residents that would like to sit on this Health Needs Committee, is my guess. So we should probably advertise again that we're looking for a resident to sit on. They would be a voting member on that. That's what the idea was. Councillor Norbury, if you can just give us the names you mentioned. I know one name you didn't throw out there, I don't believe I heard it, was the RCMP. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm just going back to what the previous minutes were, because these are the people who are regular attendees. I don't know if we particularly need to mention the doctors specifically, but I said up to, 2 doctors. Michelle Tom, the primary care network manager, Dr. Helm, representatives from the South Peace Division of Family Practice, from the primary care network, District Hospital Foundation, Northern Health, primary care network. I think I said that again. And then the RCMP staff sergeant is listed as a second motion, but I'll include the RCMP staff sergeant.
Okay, so that's an amendment. It's already been seconded.
Nope, we'll leave it. There's already a recommendation
Okay.
later on. Yeah.
Okay. Any other discussion? Councillor Julik.
We have here the recording secretary, but I see that that is further down, and so as long as we don't need to have that in that chunk, as it's further down in there, I'm just wanting to make sure we capture that, because it's sure nice to have somebody in there taking the minutes.
Yeah, no, we don't need to have it on the list because she's the secretary is a staff member, non-voting.
Okay.
Councillor Noxana?
Thank you. I would like to make an amendment that we add BC Ambulance and a member of the public to the list.
Okay, seconder on the amendment, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion on the amendment? Thank you for that, Councillor Noxana. That was my plans as well. Call the question on the amendment. All in favor? Carried. Any more discussion in regards to the amended motion? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Bertrand?
If council's got any other motions, I'll wait, but I'm ready to put the second motion on the floor.
Bill, please.
Okay. I'd like to move that council direct staff to update the healthcare task force terms of reference to include the RCMP staff sergeant position as a member and modernize the language to reflect current committee operations, and that staff provide a draft of the revised terms of reference to the healthcare task force for review and comment before final approval by council.
Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion? Councillor Julik?
I would like it to come back to council for review before it goes to the task force for review.
Councillor Noxana?
Thank you. I think going to the committee before it comes back to us gives us final comments that we can just approve the terms of reference, or we can say, hey, the committee had major challenge or, flags on this. If we did it the other way around, it comes to us and then it goes to the committee, we've already approved it, and their flags may not get captured in the final draft. So I think I'm going to agree that going to the committee is the right way to go first.
Thank you. Councillor Bertrand and Councillor Norbury.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Noxana. I think the committee should look at these changes first, just given that they're more in tune with what the committee is doing, and then it would create an extra step if it came to council first.
Thank you. Councillor Julik?
And I'm just gonna, what if the committee comes back with, I don't know how we avoid extra things coming back possibly. So if we don't look at this after staff has done what we've asked them to do, and then it goes to the committee, and the committee says, no, we want to do this, 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 and this, then it comes back to council, and council says, oh, no, we're not on board with that, then it's got to go back to the committee. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just saying either way, we're looking at extra steps. Because I absolutely hear what Councillor Noxana and Councillor Bertrand are saying. What I see happening possibly is them saying they want something different, and then it comes back, and then we don't approve it anyways before we've seen it.
Yeah, Councillor Julik, I understand, your possible concern, I guess. Again, these terms of references are a direction of council, not the committee giving direction back to council on what they want the terms of reference. The terms of reference are set by the elected officials. To me, this gives the committee an opportunity to make sure that we haven't missed something. And then comes back, just because they come forward with recommendations, and don't take me wrong, we have a committee of volunteers sitting there, and they may, maybe we have missed something. It doesn't mean we have to change our terms of reference. That again is up to the elected officials for the direction of what we want the committee to do. But I think if it's the other way around, where it comes here first, we would not approve it then. Then we'd ask staff to direct it back to the committee, and then get it back from the committee to approve it. So we're talking like, 2 extra meetings for council, which is not an issue for me. Don't take me wrong. I'll have 10 meetings a week, but I think this gives clear direction that, one, we support the people that are representing the health task force and stuff. And you mentioned it yourself. I mean, you were trying to get this in front of council, and we just never got it here. So to me, that there was issues with the maximum of 7, and we're way over that number. Anyways, we weren't even doing the proper terms of reference in a meeting that we're holding. So I think this gives the task force an opportunity to go through it, and we asked for some broad language. I think staff can add. We're going to add some broad words in there. And then obviously, I mean, it doesn't mean that staff won't give us a copy of the draft before they send it to the task force. It just won't be represented at a meeting. But I could be wrong, but Ms. Scott, I would think that when we draft this up, that we would see a draft in our wicket at the same time that we're going to give it to the committee, so we can pre-read it.
We can do that, yes.
Yeah, so it just won't be at a meeting, but we can read it, and then we can be prepared if we have, because we could possibly have changes at that meeting that we missed ourselves, not even the committee picks it up. So I think this is the right step to send it back to that committee, gives them an opportunity to see it before their meeting too, to come up with suggestions, so I will support it. Any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Councilor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. I did forget one motion here for the goal of the committee. I'm struggling to find the right words here, but I'd like to somehow add increasing the services of our health center, including our overnight and weekend ER coverage. I think that needs to be in this terms of reference so that it is top of mind. I think all of council is in agreement that this is not acceptable. We need this ER service coverage back, and I think this Health Needs Committee can help with that.
Thank you. Seconder, Councilor Norbury. Discussion, Councilor Hoffman.
Just want clarity on what the motion is going to be, because I had a thought on that.
Sorry?
I'm not clear on what the motion exactly is. I had a thought on that. So I heard motion that is kind of and not specific. So for example, we can make it a top priority for restoration of 24/7 ER services and have other priorities being added. So that's why I wasn't clear on what we're actually discussing.
Councilor Bertrand.
Yeah, and I apologize, I didn't have a prepared motion here. I'm still trying to wordsmith it, but if somebody has a better idea or words to mind, I just want to add something in regards to our ER service to this goal.
Thank you. Councilor Hoffman.
And that's where I was going with this. I wanted to make that an explicit top priority, that the restoration of 24/7 emergency care is this committee's priority going forward. Until that's restored, that remains the priority.
Okay. I would suggest that we defeat this one. It's too, we could do an amendment, and I just think it looks bad. I'm going to make comments before we do a vote on this one, then, because I'm hoping people will not pass it. I actually don't believe it's just the sole job of this committee. I think this council, we're going to rely on 2 council members and some volunteers of other organizations. I believe it's the job of this whole elected group to be working with that, including working with Northern Health in open dialogue and open conversations, and then with ministry and other ideas. I think leaving this just to the Health Task Force Committee, I think we're just asking 2 people to do the job of all 7. I think that, and that's why, I mean, whatever motion goes on, the same old debate will be from me, is I think that's the job of this elected council. I've been working very hard all weekend, since Thursday, and then for me just to have 2 councillors try to take that on, I think we all need to be involved when it comes to that. It doesn't mean that we can't give a bullet to the Health Needs Committee to bring us some information from the PCN and the South Peace Family Group and other things, but to me, I'd be looking for information, not for them to do the job of the elected officials. Councillor Julich.
Yeah, and for me, it brings forward some other concerns as I go down to the goal of the committee. I agree. I think that, and as I said before, I think that the emergency stuff that we're dealing with now is the responsibility, all of us in here in council, and I feel it's really important that we all get on the same page on that. Like, I think we may all have different ideas. I think we need a consistent message, and I'm glad that Mayor Kakalka brought that up as 6.3. What I'm seeing though, we have the retention, which we kind of knocked around here for a bit. We have challenges facing TR Cares, but yet we didn't add TR Cares to the task force members. So like, to me, we either got to take that out or have them as one of the extra members. Structural issues with the health center building, I don't know if we're still dealing with that. So I think if we're going to do the goal of the committee, I agree where it says other issues related to health advocacy. I think it could be, because we see that emergency services may not, that we can't take that for granted, is maintain emergency services at our clinic, or maintain emergency services. That way it stays relevant to the committee if we don't redo the things. But I think we need to look at this before we move on, this goal of the committee stuff.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I couldn't disagree more. I think this is only one avenue, and I don't think this abdicates our responsibility at all. It says that whatever resources and whatever context we have goes towards what I'm perceiving as at least a potential existential threat to this town. If the ER services remain shut, I don't believe we're going to attract nearly the number of people that we would. I think we're going to lose a lot of potentially fragile people. I think we're going to lose a lot of people with young kids, and I think it just sends us in a spiral in the wrong direction, and a message of every avenue and everything that we can do, we're going to set to this 24/7 emergency priority. And at no point, I have not gone to these committee meetings, did I get the idea that I was abdicating that. I think that this committee, a number of these things become moot if we don't have the emergency services. And no disrespect to anything on this list or anything that we are talking about, but without it, there's a lot of other things that become less of consideration because we're just not going to have the need for it. So I don't have any numbers. I don't know how fast this happens, but I think every month that goes on without this, and if it doesn't look like this is everything that we care about, that it's less likely that we get this priority met. So I'm fine with defeating the motion on the floor, as we said, but I fully intend to bring back a motion regarding the 24/7 emergency service.
No problem. Councillor Noxana and then Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. I think if we are listing the goals of the committee, safe and stable emergency care access should be on this list. Because even if Northern Health was to magically appear on their unicorns in town tomorrow and say, the emergency room is open, do we think that we should not still address that we have not had stable access to emergency room care for a very long time, even before this last week? That does not absolve council as a whole from also working on the crisis that we're in right now, but it gives this task force a bit more teeth and direction and saying, this is a huge issue in our community and our residents really need safe and stable access to emergency care 24/7, 7 days a week, even on Christmas, even in Thanksgiving, even every other day of the week.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury and then Councillor Jilek.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I appreciate Councillor Noxana's comments about safe and stable 24-hour care. I believe this is something that we can bring up every meeting because there are people from the primary care network, from the Southeast Division of Family Practice, they're likely going to have ideas. I know Dr. Helm already has ideas to put forward to help us through this crisis that we're not sure Northern Health is aware of, but this could get the conversation going. So I think it's important for us to continue to bring it up. And I appreciate Mayor Kakalka's comments regarding this is an objective of all of council. But I just see the healthcare task force as another opportunity for us to have conversation as well. Another tool in the toolbox, if you want to use some buzz phrases. So that's just how I see it. It's just another way for us to get the conversation going and move it forward. So, yeah, I'm in support of defeating this motion to craft a little better. So, yeah, but I'm in favor of the direction.
Thank you.
We're just defeating.
Defeat. Well, I'm still gonna make comment. I think it's already added in the goals and it's other issues related to health advocacy. When I go back and I don't read the last minutes that were taken on September 4th, because there was an announcement made in that meeting that I think changed the direction of the topics of the whole meeting. But if we go back to the meetings previously, and I listen and I look within the agenda tonight and listen to some of the comments made by the other agencies there, to me, when we make this statement in that meeting is really and truly, we're asking all those agencies to focus on this thing. So to me, we're going to try telling the South Peace and the PCN and Dr. Helm and Dr. Iffy, Northern Health, this is the only thing we're working on. Don't bring any of the other concerns. That's what it looks like to me when we put that forward. Listening to Councillor Norbury make those comments, it sounds like that's the concept, and Councillor Noxana, this would be the focus. I just think we got to be careful on how we word it, how we direct it, because to me, when I see the notes and the minutes taken within some of this other, within the other organizations and talking about they're nearly complete for 325 grand projects and stuff like that, does this steer that group for the PCN in a different direction when we have the committee lead is focusing on trying to get ER back to an on-call 24 emergency department? That would be my only concern. Councillor Noxana and Councillor Julik.
Thank you. I don't think this is the only goal we're talking about. I think this is one goal. And it's a huge goal right now that we're all working on, including this committee and including that entire list of people that you just had. We're not taking out everything else to only work on ER services. We're keeping recruitment and retention and anything else that we see as a huge goal that we need to work on. This is just, in addition to that, this is what we see now, and we need to keep working on it, because even if things drastically change tomorrow, we're going to have to look at a different system to advocate for safe and stable ER care 24/7 in Tumbler Ridge.
Thank you. Councillor Julik.
Yeah, I don't disagree with it going on the list. I just think we need to be mindful of how we put it on the list, because again, if these terms of reference don't, right now we have the problem of not having ER care. So I appreciate like maintaining emergency services, 24/7 emergency services, or stable. The thing is stable, we could have the word in there. We found out quite clearly that this is a staffing issue. And I think prior to this, we were having stable. So for me, it's wordsmithing when we come down to it, because I don't see anybody in here disagreeing around us having emergency thing, like something mentioning emergency healthcare, because we all realized, holy heck, it can go that fast. But I think we need to be mindful so that the terms of reference stay current and I can't remember the other word. So absolutely, I feel like it should say maintaining safe and whatever that wording is that Councillor Noxana used, I think it's about maintaining that. Right now, we don't have it, but we're hoping that we will. And so the maintenance of making sure that stays a priority, which is what I think when we list it there, then it stays as a priority through the whole, until the terms of reference change.
Thank you. Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. And I would argue that in hindsight, and hindsight's always 20/20, looking at our emergency care in the last few years, it has not been stable. Mm-hmm. We've been on divergent, or we haven't had care regularly for several years. There'd be periods of time where the ER was closed. So even if we had the emergency room come back, I would like to work on reducing those. And I think that we were in a really good place for a period of time, but that's not taking our foot off the gas during that time, and continue to focus on that and increase recruitment and retention and support our healthcare professionals here. Which is why I see putting the ER in this list as a huge benefit going forward, because it's not just the crisis right now and then when that's resolved tomorrow, hopefully. It's going forward to ensure that stable access, that people know what to expect. They can show up and someone's there to help them in their time of need, regardless of the time.
Thank you. Councillor Julik.
Yeah, I don't know that I disagreed with any of that. My point only was that to have it in such a way that it stays relevant. And the other thing that I would mention is that it's not always going to be the priority of the meeting because things change. So like in my experience on the healthcare task force, we didn't go to these goals and then talk about them. We talked about whatever was relevant of the day. So do I think that any one of these things are going to be on the top every meeting? No, there's going to be some days that it's going to be emergency healthcare, probably for the next while, but it's fluid. And so that's why I just want to make sure that when we do these, when we're setting this terms of reference up, because they haven't been done for 8 years, if they were to fall off the wayside again, that they stay relevant. And I think saying something to the effect, the stability, however Councillor Noxana that put it, absolutely to say maintain stable and reliable, emergency health care is absolutely one of those things.
Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand I'm on the more extreme end of this, but in the end, priority doesn't mean to the exclusion of all else. And if it is resolved to the satisfaction of everybody at this committee, I don't think they're going to prioritize it for the rest of the year or the years to come. And where I'm standing right now, and I said it earlier, and I'll do the short version, I feel there's an existential threat right now to the town, and I think making it a priority at every opportunity and every appropriate one, and I think a healthcare task force fits the bill. And I'm more than happy to review this more than once every 8 years. I'm more than happy that if the committee says, hey, I think we got this settled out, and if it's in the next month, I will be ecstatic. But I'm, one, not convinced of that. Two, think the threat is active, not coming. It's here and it's on us. And it came way faster than I'm comfortable with. So that's why I'm far more hot and bothered than I usually am. That's why I'm pushing a lot harder than I usually would on something like this. I understand that it's a decision for this council, not for me. But I'm not feeling what I felt yesterday from council right now. And I think the town, and I thank the residents for showing up yesterday. I think that was a huge help. But I think some of that heat needs to be pushed in every single aspect that we can, at least for the time being. So I'm sorry for repeating myself. I'll stop.
You're all good. Okay, we're going to stop discussion here. We keep going around in circles. I'm going to call the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Should have asked ahead of time. So you're in favor? Thank you. So Councillor Bertrand, Councillor Dussault, Councillor Julick, Councillor Hoffman, Councillor Norbury, Mayor Kirkcalker are opposed. The motion is defeated. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that under goals of committees that as long as Tumbler Ridge is without 24/7 emergency support, that be the priority of the Tumbler Ridge Health Task Force.
Seconder. Councillor Bertrand. Discussion. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is for clarity on 24/7 healthcare. We've never had emergency 24/7 department open. So I'm just curious what you're looking for.
Okay, I'm not sure what, I take that the ER being open is regular hours plus the coverage afterwards being 24/7, but
So on-call.
on-call is, okay, oh, I'm sorry, I understand.
The call-in
Yes.
model, that's
The
why
on-
I'm asking this,
okay.
because we could be giving direction to Councillor, the two liaisons, which are Councillor Norbury and Councillor Noxana, to start hammering at the committee with Northern Health and the doctors that we want to see a ER fully open.
No,
We gotta
thank
be
you, Mayor.
careful how we word it.
I appreciate that clarification. I am referring to on-call 24/7 coverage, that emergency services are available in some form to our residents.
Thank you. Councillor Julick and then Councillor Noxana.
I'm not going to vote in favor of this only because of the points that I made previously. I think that the wording needs to be mindful of the ability for us to find the healthcare. Because in your motion, Councillor Hoffman, what I would see is, so once we have that, then we don't stay on top of it. What my concern is that we go forward with the mindset that we're getting that healthcare, and that the healthcare task force responsibility is to make sure that that doesn't go away in one form or another, or gives them that that's part of the direction, particularly when those liaisons change, so they know they can go back to.
Thank you. I get Councillor Naxana.
Thank you. I would agree that this makes it a check mark and move on instead of something that we're actively working on continuously. I think that even when we had access to the emergency room, we should have maybe been focusing on it a little more, because none of us saw this coming this fast. And I'm not sure when I'm going to be comfortable, even if Northern Health comes back tomorrow and says it's back. I don't know when I'll be comfortable again believing that we have an emergency room. And to me, that speaks of the stability of it and what a situation we were in before and now.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the intent from Councillor Hoffman, but unfortunately, I think the terminology used is a little too obscure. I believe that by saying access to emergency services, the counterpoint to that is you do. If you're emergency, you get an ambulance, you go to Dawson Creek. You're done. Good. So I think a little more clarity on that one would be my preference. Thank you.
Councillor Hoffman.
No, that's fine, and I understand what you're saying. I also don't think that this precludes a different motion, speaking to something that would be more for a long-term stable thing. This is not accidental. I think that this needs to be focused on, not exclusively, this point is exclusive. The longer term, the less deferrals, the less coverage elsewhere that we have to go somewhere else. And I do apologize, I should have used the word local, and I don't have a problem amending, but I don't get the impression that there's enough support for that anyway, so I'm going to leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor Hoffman. I'm going to make a comment again. I do believe the concerns that we have with our emergency department, sure, we can list it there on a billet note, but it's under other issues related to health advocacy. Careful how I say this here. Let me just think here before I speak out of turn and cause myself grief. I think as we move forward, trying to work through the dialogue with Northern Health, as council and the elected officials, with staff, and then have a committee that is trying to work with Northern Health staff, we may start to have people not being allowed to show up. So I think we have to be very, very careful on how we're trying to lead this. I don't get me wrong. I'm pretty sure you've seen the statement. I was at the event on Sunday. I think it's very. I want it open. I mean, I've already looked and sent a note. I'm probably going to reestablish my paramedic license because I think it's needed today. But I think we have to be very, very careful when we are trying to do it from the elected official side, which is our job. Yes, Northern Health's job is to provide stable health care for all of Northern Health. The Minister of Health's job is to make sure we have stable health care for the province of British Columbia. I think if we start bullet pointing certain things within a task force, that we have members from Northern Health that are staff, not the, decision makers, they may start getting direction that they're not allowed to attend these, and that would be the worst thing that we could have happen. We need those voices because there's other things you guys are working on. I still believe it is in the goals when it's other health issues related to health advocacy. That's nurse shortage, lab, x-ray, that's all that. If we need it spelled out a little bit different in there, then let's change a bit of wording. But I think if we start giving clear direction of what this committee's goal or task is going to be moving forward until we can rectify some, we may see a pushback that maybe they stop allowing. Right now, the doctors work for Northern Health. Ms. Burton is a Northern Health employee. To me, that would be the worst thing that we could see with the task force is we lose representatives because we've put a mandate by on our terms of reference. So to me, I want to see the Tumbler Health Needs Committee, work on multiple things, including like having that open dialogue, because it's a bit of different dialogue with that committee and Northern Health employees in that room. There's way more working as a group because there's things that she can work with council and with some of the other agencies that come there. So I won't support the motion. I think we got to be, again, very, very careful on how we word this. If we need some time to think about it, we can defer this. And I understand we're all in a hurry. Councillor Julik, you mentioned it. I mean, I was prepared to make, I do have some more motions. Each councillor is different what we expect when we come to a meeting. But that was, to me, the idea of the terms of reference being brought forward. But yeah, I just really want to be careful how we word this. I want to make sure that we don't jeopardize the Health Task Force Committee with representatives from Northern Health. And, you know, and I get it. We're all frustrated. We're all upset. But I think that would defeat what we made this task force for. That's my comments. Councillor Bertrand.
Yeah, I thank you for your comments, Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I do hear what you're saying, and I do agree that is putting ourselves at risk of losing members by specifically calling out the ER coverage. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree.
Thank you. Councillor Julik.
Well, I guess, so this is where I'm getting curious, though, in that, so the goal of the committee, like, we've got 6 bullet points here. We weren't concerned about that 8 years ago when they were put there. I'm not saying that we have to, I'm just saying what we have here, I think all of those pieces could fall into that shady area that you've just mentioned, or Mayor Kauka, you've just mentioned about if we get specific, but we have specific things in here about the structural issues, mental health, all of that stuff. So while I don't have a problem saying maintaining stable ER coverage, or however Councillor Noxana did that wording, because to me that's maintaining. That's one of the things here. And I would probably go at this more of, instead of we'll examine and seek solutions for identified issues, it would be something to the effect, because what happens if they were to come and say, okay, we're not going to have lab and x-ray? That wouldn't be anything that we would be wanting to support either, right? So I'm not saying that my idea is right. I'm just saying, like, do we take the goal of the committee out here then? Do we just put issues related to health advocacy as a whole? What does that look like? Because like I said before, when we discussed the last motion, we don't have any TR cares on the committee. I don't know what structural issues, if they still are ongoing, that kind of thing. I think that these things are dated, and I'm okay with putting maintain with the assumption, because we would still be talking about something, and I don't know that that takes us out of the realm. We just happen to be changing our terms of reference tonight.
Yeah, I'll make a few comments. I sat on this committee for many years. I chaired it. I sat on it as the alternate. So we can talk structural issues for one. Okay, let's call it renovation and issues with the center. So that's really what that meant, structural issues. The upcoming thing, what's going on with the generator, they had to shut it down to actually rewire it properly. They're adding the new medicine dispenser. That's the structural issues of a health center. That's what's structural, because it classifies everything. New equipment. So I know they just received a new ultrasound machine. Somewhere in the notes it talks about, Councillor Dussault was asking earlier about, well, what is that machine? That's the structural issues of the thing. It's just not the structural, you know, the beams and the wood. It's structural of the whole running of the center. When we talk about lack of mental health and counseling, like, yeah, so like, you know, like, I know the meetings I've attended, and even when you attended, there's always the roundtable, the update of what's happening in the building. Where are we at with staffing levels? What can we assist with staffing levels? Like, that's what we need to make sure, and that's all in here. If we need to bulletproof it, or bullet point things because that's what council want, so be it. But I'm suggesting that we tread it. We just have the right wording. That again, we don't have pushback that all of a sudden there is deemed that we are. There's concerns with them now coming to a committee and they don't want to, and now we have people that have to be pulled off by, and they're being pulled off by management. Everybody's well aware at Let's Talk here that we just had. It was at the NCLJ that we brought it up of why don't we have Northern Health employees attending the Let's Talk. Cheryl and them scrambled to make sure that happened. Again, I think, you know, as we work in dialogue with them, I think we just got to be careful. I actually think the goal should be there. I actually don't think it should be retention. I think it should be attraction and retention. Because once you attract them, this goal to me, for this committee, should be for retention. What else can they do with Northern Health for retention? You know, we started a process in regards to retention. That was the passes. It was taking our medical professionals out once a year for dinner. Well, we didn't do it because of COVID. Have we implemented that yet? No, we keep talking about it. We haven't done it. COVID's been over. You know, we talked about it with the teachers, taking our educational professionals out. Again, we couldn't do it during COVID. We talked about implementing it again. Where are we at? We still haven't done it. We didn't do it last spring before school was out and the school's in. So I think, we got so much going on as council, and a big plateful, and then a new thing drops down on us, and we're all gung-ho, and we should be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to tell anybody to back off here. But we're forgetting what we actually initiated this for, and those dinners. When we know a doctor's coming, when Daphne gets a hold of, whether it's through the committee or through our staff, or that she gets a hold of the mayor, we have a new doctor coming. Yes, we should be doing our best to show up, whoever can. No, we're not always all available. That is one of the other steps of attraction and retention. We haven't had an opportunity to do that lately. Hopefully, we're going to get a chance to do that. Same with nurses. I know Councillor Noxana, Councillor Norbury have been going over quite often with the VIP passes, just like you had done. And I think that's important. The nurses like seeing that. They like the bag they're getting. But when we start becoming real specific, we could have an opportunity here to lose what we're actually, to me, which is a very strong point within this council and the previous council. So I talk about, Councillor Noxana, you mentioned, a few years back, we really didn't see the diversions. No, we didn't, because the pulse was always on this. The pulses changed when the PCN came about. They started taking meeting time, and I'm not disrespecting them. The South Peace family, Division of Families Practice, that's taken some of the time away from this meeting. When those first all came on board, the meeting was supposed to be extended by 30 minutes, and the first 30 minutes was supposed to be given to that. One couldn't extend it because they didn't have enough time for doctors. But really and truly, it's taken a lot of this task force out of what some of the goals are, because those goals aren't even on there. Yes, those other organizations come forward with lots of ideas to assist. The goals are right here. That's why it's important for them there. But to direct the PCN or any other agency that, hey, listen, this is what we need to work, I believe they're already doing that with our committee members. If the committee needs something stronger under other issues related to healthcare, put a motion that we suggest that was talked about at every meeting on what can we do to upstaff our ER to have it open on the on-call service. Those would be my comments. Okay, I'm going to call that question on the motion. If I can get staff to read it back, because I don't even know where we're at. Staff even get it? Okay. Councillor Hoffman, remember it?
At least the gist.
Perfect.
That the top priority of the Tumbler Ridge Healthcare Task Force be the restoration of 24/7 availability of emergency services locally, and until that happens.
Locally wasn't mentioned in that motion. Ms. Scott's staff has the motion.
Then I will ask the Deputy Corporate Officer to read the motion back.
Your Worship, that under goals of committees, as long as Tumbler Ridge is without 24/7 on-call emergency services, support that it be the priority of the committee.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion on the motion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bertrand, Councillor Dussault, Councillor Julia, Councillor Noxana, Councillor Norbury, Mayor Kukalka. Opposed. Motion is defeated. Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
that the goal of the Health Needs Task Force is to increase and maintain access to equitable, safe, stable, and timely healthcare services in Tumbler Ridge by examining and seeking solutions regarding recruitment and retention of healthcare professionals, whatever that may be, reduction or lack of public healthcare, and home care services, mental health supports for all ages, structural and equipment concerns within the health center building, and other issues as they arise related to healthcare advocacy.
Can you send that to staff, please?
I have it, I'll email it to you.
Yours, email it? Okay. Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion? Councillor Bertrand?
I like it. I'm in favor.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I'll make a comment. I support it. It's not being rate direct. I think this is, I think it's already there. We just changed a bit of wording. Thank you, Councillor Noxana. I think it was already there. It was just the wording was changed a bit. And I think it, when you talk about lack of mental health and counseling service for all ages, a lot better than just for children, so I'm definitely gonna make a bullet about that, because I think it's important. So, thank you for that motion. Any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Motion carries. I am gonna put a motion on the floor that staff reaches out to BCEHS Regional Manager, inviting him or someone else from BCEHS to attend the Tumbler Ridge Health Needs Committee meetings. Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion? I'll just quickly say why I put that motion on the floor, and I know Councillor Duke had brought forward in previously. We did have a local individual sitting on the task force, and maybe, maybe that's changed now, but to me, it sounded like from the individual, they weren't getting what they thought from it. So to me, I think we need to send it out to the regional manager to get his insight. Maybe he, or they, shouldn't say he, they, maybe they'll have somebody else that wants to sit on it, or they'll say that they don't, and then that helps the committee out and know that that's one less email staff sends every month. So I think it's important to do that. Any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, anything else in regards to the Healthcare Task Force Committee recommendations? I'm going to put another motion on the floor that staff starts advertising that we have a spot for resident on the Health Task Force Committee. Sorry, the Tumbler Ridge Health Needs Committee. Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion, Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. Not to split hairs, but I noticed you said one. Is that what we're looking for? Just one representative?
I put down one. I think, it's up. I think we don't need 50 residents there. I think we will get 50. Really ensure that meeting is supposed to be open to the public anyways, is my understanding of this meeting. So if we end up having to have it in a bigger room so residents can attend, so be it. But I do think if we have a voice from the residents, that there can be a voice for all. Call a question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, anything else before we move on? Councillor Bertrand, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question on how we're going to decide that resident if we do have 50 applicants.
Guess we'll figure it out. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, don't know. And I think that's an opportunity to have a discussion, and, maybe we only get two, and maybe we say, hey, listen, like, why would we pick? Maybe we need to have both. I think it gives us an opportunity. We've never had anybody. We've tried and tried and tried. And I think it's important to at least try. If we get multiple, then I think we need to sit down and figure out how that looks with staff. Unless staff has I don't want to put Miska on the thing, but, what does that look like? How would we pick? Do we know? Is there a criteria that we can use?
Staff could come up with a matrix or criteria list that you could assess the applicants on.
Okay, thank you. So maybe staff will look at that. If they get multiple people, they can come up with a matrix so that it'll help or assist us. Okay, anything else before we move on? Okay.
The motion's on the floor to add that.
I thought we voted. Did we not vote? Am I losing it? Did we vote or not? We did. We did vote, did we not? Yeah, we've already voted. So I think that's a few times council doesn't think that I'm doing the job, and if you don't think so, just call a point of order. And it gives me a chance to do a ruling with staff to make sure that it's been recorded as a vote. It's hard when I hear that. No disrespect to Councillor Norbury, I'm not. But it happens, and then of course then I start getting like, okay, maybe we didn't vote. Then I'm looking at staff and I got Councillor also. And then if somebody calls a point of order, we can just get a ruling, and I think it makes it cleaner. Moving on to Mount Spieker, correspondence from Tim Croston, the president of the Grizzly Valley ATV Club. Director, Tumbler Ridge Outdoor Recreation Association, regarding the closure of Mount Spieker. Recommendation, please. Councillor Bertrand.
I'd like to move for discussion.
Seconder. Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you. I'd like to ask for an update on this issue. I believe this is just bringing to our attention of the closure, and I do believe there's an update on this issue.
Yeah, so it's, I did get reached out to by Mr. Croston that after further investigation by Fish and Wildlife and some staffing with ministry, it was found that it was a staffing error that this was done in. So to me, it was something missed in regards to it is what I got from Mr. Croston, that it was a staff error. But what I found relevant, I guess, Councillor Bertrand, is nobody knew. Nobody knew how to answer it. Nobody knew how to find it. So I think it's relevant to still discuss this. I have a couple of opinions afterwards. Councillor Jilek.
Yeah, I was really appreciative of Mr. Croston bringing the attention and doing the hard work of figuring out what happened, and he uses social media pretty well. The ATV, the Outdoor Motorized Recreation page, and then also WTF is where I first saw the thing that he said that it was in error. For me, after doing the agenda review with Ms. Scott today, I feel like there was some good points brought up about how do we make sure that the District of Tumbler Ridge, when it comes to things like tourism, who is going to be the point person and who's going to be the person to follow up? Because I think, like you've said, Mayor Kakauka, how come it took so long for Tim Croston? Like, that's an issue, you know, and how can we maybe work with those clubs, Trora and the rest of them? So I don't know what that looks like for me. I feel like that's the Economic Development Department as they are in charge of tourism, and I think that this is one of the things that would piggyback onto that. I don't know if we need to, as a council, make a decision or make any kind of direction or thoughts. Like, that's just why I'm opening up the discussion. Like, what does that look like? Do we as council want to make sure that staff time is taken in following up, particularly in caribou recovery and that kind of stuff, and whose job is it, and so on?
Yeah, no, and I think there should be some kind of direction, and I'm not directing an individual, but Ms. Scott is who we can direct. But Councillor Bertrand, did you not sit on a caribou committee association? And the reason I ask you that is maybe one of the motions should be that we're reaching out to them to find out if we still have a seat at that. I've never been reached out to after the election, but if we still have a seat at that, then that would be my seat. But I think if they still have that seat, we need to get back on it. If we don't have a seat, we got to ask if we can get back on it, just so we can have that dialogue too and that information. But I also think some of the direction we should be giving to staff is start reaching out to ministry to make sure they have our CAO's new contact information, so they are contacting her, and whether whoever's in charge, BC Trails, BC Parks, so that we are getting the proper updates. This isn't the only one that we weren't updated on. Let's use BC Parks in regards to Canusa Falls, in regards to the closure of that. We heard that from the Vic Center. So, yeah, I'm just curious, Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I did sit on the original working committee, Caribou Recovery Committee. As far as I understand, that committee did fold after the report came out, so the committee is not meeting anymore. They've actually developed a division within the ministry, the Caribou Recovery Team, I believe it is.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other discussion? I'm going to put a motion on the floor that we ask Ms. Scott to reach out to the Caribou Recovery Team and try to get some clarification in regards to how they are deciding on trail closures or not closing trails, and if there's a seat for Tumbler Ridge on that. Seconder, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion, Councillor Noxana.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a little amendment that we also ask how notifications go out once those decisions are made for trail closures.
Yep. Now you want it to the recovery team, because this didn't come from the recovery team in regards to the closure. It came from somewhere else. Councillor Noxana.
I don't think it would hurt to add it in.
Okay.
And we can also reach out to the ministry to say that we need more consultation when our local trails get closed. But hopefully this team can give us some insight as to how this goes about in our community.
Okay, seconder on the amendment, Councillor Bertrand. Discussion on the amendment, Councillor Bertrand. Okay. Call the question on the amendment. All in favor? Carried. Any more discussion on the amended motion? Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. After hearing this whole situation, I can understand how this mistake was made. During the closure committee time there, or the Caribou committee time, there were certain areas that were designated certain times of the year closed, and Mount Spieker was one of them. There was high caller data in that area in the wintertime. So it was agreed that that area needed to be closed for caribou recovery in the wintertime. But then when the report came out, it was unbeknownst to the committee that they decided to blanket close at 1,400 meters. So I can understand how this confusion came about because Mount Spieker is above 1,400 meters, but it was specifically recognized within the Caribou Committee team, report, sorry, that it was only a winter closure. So I can definitely understand how this confusion came about because of that 1,400 meter closure. I don't think that's going to change, but yeah, it definitely makes things complicated.
Thank you very much for that information. Going to call the question on the motion, on the amended motion. All in favor? Carried. Any other topics or direction to staff? Councillor Noxana?
Thank you. I would like to make a motion that we reach out to the minister, it would be ENR in the Northwest Territories. I don't know what the specific ministry that conservation is under here, sorry. I'd like to make a motion that we reach out to the ministry to also request some more insight into how trail closures are advertised in our community or in our region.
Okay. Seconder? Councillor Dussault? Just before discussion, Ms. Scott, clear on that one? And staff will make sure they have the right ministry. It's a lot easier. There's quite a few different ministries that are tied to trail systems. You know, BC Parks, BC Trails, I think Walrus. So I think there's quite a few. So they'll make sure it's the right ministries. Discussion. Councillor Julik.
Sorry, can I hear the motion again? Is it the Northwest Territories, did you say?
Councillor Noxana?
I would have called it ENR if we were in the Northwest Territories, Environment and Natural Resources, but it's called something else here.
I think it's Walrus.
Something like, yeah.
Staff will make sure it's
So
just
the
right
relevant
ministry.
one for BC.
Yep.
Don't email you.
Any discussion on this? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Any other discussion in regards to, well, it started off as Mount Spieker, but it's pretty much open for trail systems. Before we move on? Moving on. 6.3, Northern Health discussion. I'm going to put a motion on the floor for discussion. Seconder, Councillor Noxana. All in favor? Carried. The first thing I am going to do is put a motion on the floor. That Council directs staff to prepare and send a letter to the Minister of Health, the Northern Health Board of Directors, the Northern Health Chief Executive Officer, and our MLA requesting a firm commitment and public announcement that the reduction in after-hours emergency department coverage at the Tumbler Health Center is only temporary until the doctor positions are filled, and that full coverage would be reinstated as soon as possible. Seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion. Councillor Julik.
I'm wondering if we hem ourselves in with the doctor positions is all. Like, I know you put some thought into that, so if you could just clarify for me, because I feel like they should do it, maybe we don't get 4.0 right away, right? Because we're at 1.5 right now?
We're at 0.5.
We're
Set
at,
at 50%, so 2.
we're at 2.5?
It's going to get worse, as they were saying.
Okay, so yeah, because I took away that we were at 1.5 or whatever, and I'm okay to, I just wanted to get some clarification if we were limiting ourselves, if we were to say specifically the doctor stuff, like could we say it without the doctor? Like basically we want it and I don't care what you got to do to get it.
Well, the doctors right now are the reasoning
Okay.
for the closure of the after-hour model of callback. That is what they said. That's what they advertised to the residents of Tumbler Ridge on Sunday. And I think this was something that I asked even there. It's something that was pretty much in a statement. It's what I've been using on media, is that we want Northern Health to change it from permanent to temporary, as we all work together to come up with a fix.
Absolutely. So if it's just the doctor part that was in your motion that I'm not fully clear on. So did you say that we were at 4.0 or until we hired doctors?
I just put down until the doctor positions are filled. That would be their 4.0.
Okay.
And maybe they'll run it with 2, but that's what they said. Councillor Hoffman and Councillor Noxana.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, I very much understand where this motion is coming from. I guess for me, I'm realizing why I'm getting so hot and bothered today is I don't trust them to actively try to fill those positions. I looked at what they showed us, and I'm not convinced that this is the genuine reason on why it was done this way. I very much believe that there are other issues that aren't being expressed and aren't being discussed with us and not being shown. So to give them this is simply not enough for me. That I don't want to wait on a institution that I'm not convinced prioritizes our particular medical center. I think there might be other priorities at play, and I don't want to get into them. I'm not making accusations. I'm just saying I don't trust what I've heard in the last week. So taking that at face value, that when they meet these conditions, which I'm not convinced are the real reason we're here, is going to result in what I would like to see. And I don't even know if I want to support the motion or not, because I get where it's coming from, but that's an indefinite time period. And okay, I made up my mind. Without a definite time period where we will have it solved even if we have to bring in locums, I'm not prepared to leave it open-ended at this point in time. Thank you.
So I'll mention to you why I've asked for it to be reannounced as temporary. I think it assists when the PCN and them are going to be traveling out of country to start recruiting doctors. It was mentioned by Dr. Helmet on Sunday as well, what this really does when they look to go recruiting. Dr. Helm he was clear looking for the same thing. And I think we have an avenue when we can send a letter from the district advocating for them to go back to a temporary announcement. Do I think that you're not correct? Are they going to work hard at filling the positions? I don't know, but I know I am. I'm advocating right now everywhere I can. My understanding today, we'll have to wait till it's confirmed, but we may have a doctor applying this week. That's how quick things are starting to revolve. But until they apply, I can't confirm they've applied. But I am not taking my foot off the gas here. Do I think it's my job to start recruiting for Northern Health? No. Do I need to have a meeting with Northern Health to find out how that works in that scope of me trying to find doctors for them? Yep. But if they make it as a temporary, we're still recruiting doctors that want to work emerge, not just 8 to 7 p.m. Councillor Knox-Shannon and Councillor Norbury.
Thank you. Well, I agree that we need to send a letter. I do have issues with this line stating temporary until doctors are found, because I think it could be temporary until they find nurses who could work ER shifts with on-call doctors on the other side of a Zoom call that can assist. This happens in communities across Canada that are rural and remote all the time and has for decades. We don't always need a doctor in our facility. If we can, that's amazing. But in the meantime, there's so many other things that could be done while we recruit those doctors. This should be temporary, period. Because if that is stated, I do feel like the PCN and the Division of Family Practice can go out and say, it's temporarily closed, but yes, you do have a place in the emergency. You can see yourself as an emergency doctor here in this community, and we can sell it as that still. I just like to be temporary. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Norbury.
Thank you, Mayor Kalka. We're not supposed to repeat what the last person said or anyone said, but yeah, I think that's my concern, is that if we say until the doctor shortage is over, it gives them too much leeway to say this is temporary until forever, and we don't resume 24-hour services. I think the intent's great. That's the only thing I would suggest. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. Okay, going to call the P&P back to order. Just in regards to debating the motion that was, or the motion I wrote on the floor is still on the floor. Councillor Julik.
So I'm just curious, I just want to throw it out there and see how everybody's feeling about it. I like your motion. I'm just wondering, would it be appropriate to add something about that all other options are explored? Because I'm scared to do that as well, because I feel like that might pigeonhole us. And I would like to maybe say something to the effect about continued dialogue or ongoing conversations with council and or the citizens. But I want to get your take on that, Mayor Kakauka, because you're the guy doing the heavy lifting right now. So those are just some thoughts I want to put out there and get some feedback from you and anybody else on council.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I should have shared this motion earlier. I could have printed out 7 copies or 6 more copies than I did, and my apologies. I think we can change it any way we want. I don't think we need to add anything about communicating and working together after this, because we already did that in the statement that we've sent out. I think Northern Health sees it that we are willing to work together and still try to work with each other as we go through this process. They've seen that on Sunday. And that will be the job of the elected officials, and not just myself, it's all of council, as we dialogue and work with Northern Health to me, as we come up with different ideas on what does it look like and what does this look like in regards to getting the ER open after hours in regards to the model that is used in Tumbler Ridge, which is the on-call model. I think there's lots of things I have in my own head. I've mentioned that to the Minister of Health this morning. I mentioned it to Chiro, and so we dialogued a bit of it, and I said to him, I really don't want to put it all out there because I need to put it on a piece of paper to see what it looks like in my own eyes, because it's only in my head today. But to me, there's things that we could look at an increase of staffing. Like right now, they have 4 full-time doctors. Maybe we need 5. Maybe the doctor that works emerge doesn't work a day shift the next day. Maybe they run it like a fire department. You work 4 night shifts or a week of nights, but you don't come in to the emerge or to the clinic on the next day. You don't have to come in. You're just on call from 7 p.m. till 8 a.m. So there's lots of ideas in my head, and I just think if we get this out there, that maybe we can start that dialogue, that their commitment isn't, this is permanent. Thank you very much for all showing up at the open house in Tumbler Ridge, but it doesn't matter what you do or whatever, as this is permanent. That's why I'm trying to get it changed to temporary. I think we all heard from Dr. Helm loud and clear. I was part of one of these with himself in Northern Health when I was a paramedic. They were trying to do the same thing, close emerge back then, and the pushback. So to me, we need to make sure that the wording that they're using in the open public, that it makes sense that temporary, it's only until we can deal with the doctor situation. Right now we have 3 doctors. We have one that is looking to leave or is leaving for sure. It looks like possibly the other one is at part-time, and I'm not sure where the other one is at. But, I think we need to have, we need to get back. It's pretty hard to run a clinic and emerge with 1.5 doctors. So this is why I put it out there. I'm fine changing it. This isn't me writing this in stone and don't want input from council. I believe council's seen that in regards to the statement that was sent out from the mayor's office, that this is a council initiative, that we're trying to do everything we can for our residents, not the mayor doing what he can for Tumbler Ridge. It's a joint effort from all of us. Councillor Norberry and then Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor Kakauka. I think part of this this is communication. We are engaging in communication. It may be difficult right now, but we are still continuing communication, so I don't think that's needed there. For me, it comes back to the doctors portion in there. Until doctors are filled, I'm gonna make a motion to amend the motion to remove the section of until doctors' positions are filled.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Noxana. Discussion on the amendment. Councillor Hoffman? No, okay. Councillor Julik?
Can you read me the motion without that chunk in there?
Yep, the council directs staff to prepare and send a letter to the Minister of Health, the Northern Health Board of Directors, the Northern Health Chief Executive Officer, and our MLA requesting a firm commitment and public announcement that the reduction in after-hours emergency department coverage at the Tumbler Ridge Health Center is only temporary, and that the full coverage will be reinstated as soon as possible. Yep. Councillor Norberry and then Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor Kalka. I just wanted to have a little less leeway for Northern Health moving forward. I can appreciate their issues with staffing, doctors specifically. I'm hoping that by changing it this way, we have resumption of services sooner rather than later with maybe alternative options to keep our emergency room after 7 and on weekends open. I believe that removal of that doctors gives that flexibility to do that and doesn't doesn't allow for the recruitment issues of Northern Health to prevent resumption of services. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. And I wanted to express one of your options or alternatives that you mentioned is something I was thinking about as well. So I appreciate you putting out alternate models for coverage and other examples. I changed my mind over the last few minutes. A step forward in the right direction is a step forward in the right direction right now. As bothered as I am with the process to get to this point and as quick as I want a solution, this is a step in the right direction, that it is declared temporary by all major parties, and we go from there. So, and I also appreciate the amendment, so I am in support of this.
Thank you. Councillor Dussault?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I really like the way that your motion sounds, especially with taking out the doctor part. I think it sounds a lot better, so I support this motion.
Thank you. I will not be supporting the amendment, and the reason I won't be supporting the amendment is I believe that we talk about, there's other things, but when we listen to Northern Health Loud and Clear, it's about the doctors. I'm sorry. There is other things that we can call doctors, whether that's a computer screen or not. That's still filling a doctor position. That position has to be a paid position. They're not doing it for free, and that's why I state that, because that's what they said. They cannot open because they don't have the doctors. I think it gives us leeway when we talk about people heading overseas to try to start attracting doctors that come to Tumbler Ridge, or at least the Peace region. They didn't just say Tumbler Ridge, it's for Chetwynd and Dawson Creek as well. So I think it's really, really important, and I think if whatever version that we can work with Northern Health to come up with and use, I still think it's the doctor positions that comes out of it, and until we know what that whole criteria or liability could be if they have a non-doctor there, I just can't support the amendment. I'm trying to support council on everything we do, but this one, I think it needs to go as written. Councillor Jilek.
I guess where I'm going from, because I hear both sides of it, and was in fact concerned about the doctor part being in there. I am looking for your opinion, as you've been the person who's been talking with the ministry and all the people that be. Do you feel that this motion and the letter written without the amended motion has a more positive or better chance of making some movement within the organizations?
Yeah, I can't answer for either organization. I think it's the will of council. And even though, like, again, I said I would not support the amendment, I support the will of council. I take direction from 6 councillors. I worded it this way for the reason is that's the excuse Northern Health was using, and maybe I'm bleeding into that, but I think it was important to mention it. If the amendment passes, again, I will take direction of council. To me, anything we can do to try and get them to change the terminology from what they stated last Thursday compared to what we're asking for. We heard Dr. Helm mention it twice yet on Sunday about trying to get them to turn it around temporary. I mentioned it twice in the meeting with no reply, no answer, pretty much just acknowledged that we actually said it. So that's why I think if we send a letter, we're actually sending it not just to the chief executive officer, we're actually sending it to the Northern Health Board of Directors, but as well as the minister. And I have dialogue with the minister, but I think if we send a letter, she receives it, they make a response, we have it recorded, it gives us something to keep pushing on from our side. So I can't answer for them. To me, again, I'll just take the will of council, and what they tell me, you guys tell me to do, I'll do. Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this has been a tough one, actually. I do understand what you're saying about, they said loud and clear that the emergency room is down because of doctor shortage, and it had to be because their hands were tied. But I also heard quite a bit about work-life balance. So I would be in support of this amendment because who's to say, and I feel exactly the same way as Councillor Hoffman does. I don't trust this organization anymore. Who's to say they hire 2 more doctors and then they don't work in Tumbler Ridge? Like, we can all see that there's staffing shortages throughout the entire region. We saw our doctor in Dawson Creek on the weekend treating Tumbler Ridge patients. Okay, we're at 50%. Yeah, they hire 2 more doctors. Who's to say that they're going to work here? Who's to say that they're going to keep the same service model that they are saying is adding to poor work-life balance and burnout? I think there's changes coming, and this is one of them, and they're going to have to figure out a different way to provide ER services to Tumbler Ridge, because their current model that they were using is leading to poor work-life balance and burnout. So I don't see them going back to that same model, even if we have 4 doctors.
Okay, thank you for that. Any, no more discussion. I'm going to call the motion. All in favor on the amendment to remove until the doctor positions are filled? All in favor? Opposed? Mayor Kirkowka is opposed. Motion is carried. Any more discussion on regards to the amended motion? Call the question on the amendment, on the amended motion. All in favor? Carried. Any other conversation about Northern Health discussion? Councillor Julik.
I'm wondering, and this is just putting it out there for thought and maybe some feedback from you, Mayor Kirkowka, about making sure that we all have the same message going out at the same time. Just because I can tell in the room we're all a little bit, like, we all have the same goal. We maybe all just have a different way of going about it. And so I wonder if at some point we have that discussion, or if anybody else is feeling that themselves. Like, so for me, I feel like I would like to have, like, your, like, I appreciated the press the everybody having feedback on the press conference, having feedback on this motion. My biggest concern through all of this is making sure that we maintain the dialogue with Northern Health, and it sounds like that's happening. And I know that the folks at the open house that I talked to said that no matter what had happened yesterday, they would still keep that dialogue open. So like, for me, it's just, like, do we have a set of, like, a code of conduct that we as town council need to be going out with? Or are we kind of open to have our own ideas? Like, I don't know what that looks like. So that's my, do you get where I'm going with that? Okay.
So the role of the mayor is to speak on behalf of the municipality and for the municipality. So I speak on behalf of council and the employees that work for the municipality and on behalf of the residents. If council does not support or doesn't agree with the motion and is opposed to the motion, they have all the right to go out and speak that they were opposed to it, but the will of council is this direction, so you must follow the will of council. So again, I was against the amendment. I take direction from council. Council has changed my direction in regards to this letter going out to the Minister of Health and our MLA and the Northern Health Board. But I don't get a right to explain myself on why I didn't agree with supporting the amendment, because my direction is different. I take the direction from 6 councillors that told me this is my direction. So I don't get to go and say, I couldn't support the amendment for this. People would have heard what I said live. You as a councillor, if you didn't support that amendment, can go out and say, I didn't support it and this is why, and I get it that my fellow councillors didn't agree with me, but now the will of council is this direction and that's it. But you still get to me, council has that right. But to me, you still have to follow the will of council. If 5 of us are going this way and 2 are going the other way, it's not the will of council. So I'm not sure if that's what you're asking for in clarity. Or are you trying to say, what page are we on with Northern Health? Are we going to still talk to Northern Health? Chiro's already promised council that. To me, we were supposed to be dialoguing for the next 2 months, trying to get council's opinions and information so that we could, to me, have time to work on a scenario that they had come up with. The announcements came out. To me, the Minister of Health, and to me, Northern Health has a job to do, and that is to communicate and work with the municipality. And even though I disagree with what Northern Health has done, I have a job that I have to work with Northern Health and the Minister of Health to fix the problem, whatever way I can with council support. So I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for or not.
No, it's more around when a motion gets out there, like, so I know for a fact that 3 of us took out, me included, went to social media, and I'm wondering, like, is that something that we as council want to continue to do, that we have carte blanche on what we want to put on social media? Like, that's, you know, like, I hear Councillor Bertrand laughing because I agree. Like, so for me, I'm wondering, does that affect our message going through, like, forward as a town council? You know, and the thing is, don't get me wrong, like, there was way too emotions to be, like, because I'm not pointing fingers here. It's not any of that. That's not what's going on. I want to make sure I'm a rule follower when I feel like there needs to be rules, because I feel like you would be laughing at me. Sure, you follow rules. But I feel like if there's a common thread that we want to be having out there, or if there's types of behavior that we as council members would not like to see, because I see this continuing to get heated up. Hopefully not, but you know, what if it, you know, it's personal for so many people in our community. I'm driven by fear, and that's what my post read. I'm scared. I'm scared for the people in our community. If things go south, hearing the stories that happened this weekend, that we lost an ambulance, like both our ambulances were out. What if it's somebody that I love? What if it's not somebody I love, but somebody in our community is deeply affected by us not having emergency services? So for me, fear is my primary emotion with this. And I feel that when I talk to people. And so I just want to make sure that, what does that look like? This feels like the first time something like this big has come to this council. And so I'm not really sure where my next steps are. And maybe I'm the only one, and I just have to connect with somebody on council before I, you know, talk it over.
Yeah, so my belief is, and please feel free to push your buttons, and same with you, Ms. Scott. My opinion on that, Councillor Julik, would be, yes, you're going to have your own opinion as a councillor. You're also going to have your own opinion as a resident, because you're also a resident here. But really and truly, you're a councillor. Like, we look at each other that, yes, I'm a resident, I'm a business owner, but I'm the mayor first. So I'm careful on, you know, when I approach staff, I approach Ms. Scott because she's who I can approach. Now, when we get on social media, yeah, do I think there's a code of ethic? Yeah, read the code of ethic that you guys all signed. I think it's very, very important. Do I think you have a right to speak your mind? We do. Again, I speak on behalf of the municipality. I'm not saying that everything I say on social media, especially the last 2 days, is maybe the right word I used in one of my phrases. I mean, I have no problem owning up to that. I did that as the mayor. That wasn't on the office of the mayor's letterhead. I wasn't sitting in front of the news channel talking about what the district's directions are. I'm still the mayor, so I still have the right to voice my concerns. Now, for me to tell a councillor what they can and cannot say on Facebook is not my job. I think the will of council will rule, but you still, if you're opposed on the way the direction was going, you still have a right to say that. On social media or not, I still think, you know, I couldn't support it and this is why, but I understand the will of council. I just need to get more clarity from them. Like I said, I can, at this point when I've been advertising, I can only say majority of council because I only had majority support. I did not have all of council's support on my statement and other things that have come out because I only had majority because we had other councillors that had a different opinion. So that's why I use the terms majority, because I only had majority, even on the votes. I only had majority. So that's why I can only say majority. So, yeah, I think residents will ask, especially when they hear the word majority. So what councillor didn't? 100%, 100%. Councillor Hoffman.
Thank you, Mayor. And I don't know if this helps Councillor Julik, but I mean, this was an issue. The second you run into somebody outside the street or at your work or whatever, they're going to bring it up. This is, as you said, personal. And in the end, do you need to vent? Then feel free to vent. Do you want to know what has happened with council? Then I can tell you what's happened with council. If you want my opinion, I can give you my opinion too. And I may not be so blunt in my expression up here, but you go from there. And as you said, it's not closed. These are open discussions. We had an open discussion, and I would encourage anybody to say what they feel on this, because I think this one might be the one that's mattered the most since this council formed. So I hope that you're still expressing yourself, and I hope that you have the information from council for everyone, and reminding them that heated is one thing, but we don't go beyond that, and it's going to be interesting.
Councillor Bertrand.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to suggest council reviews the council code of conduct and there was one other, but it's all, the social media policy, sorry.
Yep, thank you. Any other discussion in regards to this discussion item, health discussion? There'll be obviously more health discussions coming on agendas, so. Okay, gonna take adjournment, please. Councilor Norbury?
That the September 8th Policies and Priorities Committee meeting be adjourned.
Seconder, Councilor Noxana, all in favor? Carried.